What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host, as always. My name is Jimmy. And as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. Just want to shout out everybody that supports all of anything we got going on, man. Special shout out to all the students from By the Hood University, as well as the youth from the By the Hood Ownership Camp, as well as all of our members from our MDC Strategy membership group. And that's growing as well. So shout out to all of you guys. We appreciate the support. But as you know, our platform is designed to highlight brothers and sisters who do amazing work in the community. I got my partner in crime, Courtney. As always, Court, what's up, good brother?
What's really good, man? Every day above ground's a good day, so let's go get it.
Yes, sir. And listen, this brother that we have on right with us right now, man, is a community activist. He's also an investor and trader. And I want his story to be told, man. He's just an overall good brother. And I love his unique perspective and his way of looking at the world. So, wanted to reach out to him and bring him on to tell his story, man. This is our brother out of the shy, man. We got Ronnie, man, in the building. Ron, what's up, good brother?
Peace and love, brethren. Peace and love.
Though.
Listen, man, first and foremost, man, I just want to say thank you for, giving us your time. That's the most valuable asset. And, we appreciate you for that, good brother.
Man, it's an honor and a privilege, man, to build with other black men,
Yeah.
And trying to empower other people and whatnot. This is a blessing, man. I'm just glad to be here. Let's get it cracking.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. So you're right. Building with our brothers is definitely important, especially our brothers from all across the country, man.
Absolutely.
But let's start with your beginning, though. Where are you born and raised? Tell our audience where you born and raised at.
Well, I'm Chicago born and raised. I was born on the west side, and I was raised on the north side. And, it's a tale of I truly lived on both sides of Chicago, if you will. It's really two sides. It's really a classist city, if you will. And so I grew up, in a melting pot with all different type of ethnicities and whatnot. But Chicago is home and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, so coming up in Chicago, you said you grew up on the west side as well as the north side. Born on the west side, grew up on the north side. What kind of student were you coming up?
I was a pretty good student, actually. I remember always wanting to learn, being a very curious child. Some people would call that bad, right? When you always into stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was always curious, trying to figure out what made this remote control work or what made this do that. So I got pretty good grades and things until I got discouraged with school because I felt like I had went as far as I could go. I wasn't being challenged, let's just say.
Okay, yeah, and it's probably a lot of young brothers like that still to this day.
Yeah. I had gifted classes up until that point, though.
So your journey growing up, you talked about kind of students you were. What was your journey like, through high school and after high school?
Well, in high school, man, I was, I was a jock. I played sports, played basketball and a little baseball here and there. I guess some would say I was a popular kid and things like that. But I've always been a shy individual and an introvert. So that I think a lot of people misunderstood me because I really just enjoyed being by myself, and they would take that. Some people would take that as arrogance and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was it like? So what did your journey take you like after high school? Like what was your journey like? Did you go to college? What'd you do after high school?
So after high school, I went into the Navy.
Okay.
I had a child I had a son at the time, needed a little security, and went in there without a plan,
Mm-hmm. And what made you choose the Navy over any other the armed forces? What made you choose the Navy?
Because I didn't have to go to war, meaning I didn't have to go out there in infantry. Basically, I didn't have to go out there if they would have sent me to war. I thought I would be safe. There was safety on that ship out on the water. What was I thinking, right? But went into the Navy, and it's why it's important to have guidance in your life. Mm-hmm. Mentors and people who could push you in the right directions. I had an opportunity to go into the Navy and be an air traffic controller. Didn't take the opportunity because it was a 6-year commitment. Because at 17 years old, I went in at 17. At 17 years old, I couldn't fathom 6 years of doing anything. So, but that was a mistake. I could have came out 6 years later with 2 years of school for an air traffic controller, making over $100K. So yeah, it's very important to have people to guide you so that you can make wise decisions and
So,
whatnot.
so the time that you did spend in the Navy, what would you say that you took from that to kind of bring you where you are today? Like, what did you learn from that experience, or how has that added to your life, good or bad?
Well, by me, that was my first encounter with blatant racism.
In the Navy? Wow.
When it was, I mean,
Oh
right in
yeah.
your face. I dealt with it in school. Like I said, I went to school on the north side of Chicago. It's a melting pot, all different ethnicities and what have you. I faced it on a level. I was very aware of it and conscious of it as a youngster and whatnot. But it was very in your face, sort of like take it or leave it. How they're doing the brother Kyrie and Kanye right now. Take it or leave it. We do you however you know. And I bucked against that. I've always been a rebel against oppression of any kind, especially for my people.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out too well for me.
Got you. Got you. Got you. So after the Navy, where'd your journey take you? So we know you as like someone that does work in the community. We also know you as a master trader. But leading up to that point, so what was that point in between, say, after the Navy up until you discovered, the markets? Like what kind of what some of the
Lost,
things you
bro.
were doing? You
I
said
was
lost?
lost, bro. I was in the streets. I turned to
Mhm.
the streets. I ended up leaving the military. I only had a 2-year commitment. And here I was, 20 years old. Um, and I started doing things that I shouldn't do, things
Mhm.
that was contrary to the way I was raised and who my mother raised me to be. And I started hanging in the streets and doing all kinds of things I had no business doing. And that is where I get the passion from to right the wrongs that I've created. When I go back on the old blocks where I used to hustle at, and it looks
Mhm.
like somebody dropped a bomb in the middle of that block, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
really, I kind of feel the burden of doing that to the community. You know what I mean? And I kind
Mhm.
of want to, I know I can't fix it all by myself, nor am I responsible for it all, but I do feel a duty to do something to make things around me better, and
Got
that be in my community. Yeah.
you, man. So you said lost. So let me ask you this question, right? Because you a stand-up brother now. You do positive work. What helps you turn it around, or what person was it? A person? Was it an event? What helps you get back on track?
I lost my mother. My mother died from cancer in
Mhm.
2003. And I one of the things that I don't believe in a life of regret or, or anything like that, but I do regret to a degree that my mother didn't see me be a man. My mother saw me at my lowest, running the streets and hustling and things like that, doing things that was contrary to the way she raised me. So I made a conscious decision then to start righting the wrongs. Plus, I had children on the way and
Mhm.
whatnot. So and then eventually I became a single father as well after mother died. But I just wanted to make things better for myself and my world, for my children.
Rest in peace to your mom, man. But
Rest in peace.
yeah, man. So that kind of turns you around. Um, so one of the things that I like about your approach to the work that you do is you're a brother that has empathy, right? So a lot of times in the spaces that we're in, you see a lot of people that try to help the community, but they're always like heavy-handed, like these people are wrong, they got to do better, they got to do this. And you come off a little bit different. Your thing is, let's figure out why these brothers are doing what they're doing, and a lot of it you accept responsibility for, right? I see that a lot in your messages. Where did that come from? That idea of having the empathy that you have in doing your work?
Mother. I'm my mama's baby.
Yeah.
um, my mother would do for people, and she taught me. She taught me at a young age one very important word that I love to this day, and that's the word grateful. Right, and so she would always do things and whatnot, and I didn't like it as a youngster, right?
Mhm.
But I kind of had got a heart for the people to do for people who didn't have like me. I grew up, by me saying I grew up on the north side in a melting pot with different ethnicities. I literally saw Cambodian people, people from Pakistan and India, Korea, all these different cultures come to Chicago in droves. I seen these people eating out of garbage cans, right? I seen these people being dirt poor. I mean, a whole nother level type of poor, right in the city of Chicago, poor than I even saw it from my own people on the west and the south sides of Chicago. But I also seen those people change their whole narrative and open up strips of I lost my thought, but it's liberated zones. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
They've opened up their own liberated zones all throughout in pockets of the city. So by me growing up north and seeing that, I had a desire for that for my people.
So
right?
real quick, let's go back to that. What you're thinking about. What is a liberated zone? Explain that for the folks that may not know what a liberated zone is.
So a liberated zone is actually that's one of my terms, but it's a zone where a particular ethnicity, in my case, Black people. A liberated zone is Black people that we control our businesses. We have our own strip where we control our businesses. We control our own housing. We could be our own Section 8. We could be our own investors in our own communities. And things like that. I saw that other ethnicities, I grew up with other ethnicities and watched them do it on the north side.
Okay,
and
so
example of that
would be like a Chinatown. It's like a Chinatown in every city almost.
Correct. Little Korea, Little Italy, we got it all in Chicago. Greek Town, we got stuff that other people ain't even got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I saw that, and I just thought like that's what my people was doing on the west side and the south side. So I always had a desire to be around my own because you'll get some type of rejection from others. So I wanted to kind of, when I thought that was going on in my community and I wanted to be a part of that, and I came home on my side, the west side, and I found out that these type of things wasn't really happening like that. Our people wasn't working together like that. So I just set out to start reaching out to the community. I have young children. Again, I'm a single father. I raised 3 of my children on my own. So I wanted to try to, my children have been shot at. And by shot at, I mean, they 6, 7, 8 years old at the playground. Somebody shooting in the playground ain't the same as shooting at my child, if you ask me. So I didn't want to just be somebody that just complained about issues. I'm a man of action. So I just began to start doing things in the community. I started saying, well, okay, I'm going to go out here and, try to create safe zones for children to walk home from school. Started leading efforts like that, starting working with other organizations and things like that to try to make things better in the community. And what I've seen is that a lot of our issues and problems in the community, the root cause of a lot of those things are poverty. So to get back to what you said, how could we really blame other people for poverty? We got to put some of that blame on the people who put us in this predicament. And I don't see a lot of that. That narrative is not, we always wag our fingers at each other. Like Mr. Obama got up there, he just wagged his finger at us and whatnot. And, we don't see enough of people encouraging people to be self-determinated as opposed to just telling them what they can't do and what they need to do and all this other stuff. We got to get out of that.
Yeah, man. Some powerful stuff right there. So your work, before you even got into the market, you were already in the community, doing the community side of it, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about like, I know that you work with and that's your organization. Your organization is called Rise Up Chicago.
Yeah.
But tell us about getting that started, or what led to Rise Up Chicago.
So years ago, doing this work with this one organization in which I was a founding member of, New Era Chicago. A lot of people heard of them and the work we were doing here in Chicago. And we had a particular program where we would go to every community, every Black community in Chicago. We would go and give resources. We would go and show a united front and just engage the community to get out and get active in their community. Come out on the porches and whatnot. Let's be a deterrent to some of this senseless violence and things like that. And you know, while doing that work, man, I discovered again that a lot of our problems are rooted in poverty, you know. And so I started learning about the markets and whatnot, and trying to use that knowledge to basically fund my endeavors in the community and whatnot. And from there, I've just been able to take that knowledge and create other things like programs. I'm getting ready to start working with a Pop Warner football team, teaching them about the markets and things like that, man. Just trying to
that's powerful stuff.
Reach as many young people as I possibly can, you know,
So
with what I learned. I just believe in you know, letting everybody. I don't want to leave this earth with any of the things that I have in me. I want to pour out to my people as much as I possibly can, you know?
Yeah. So let's talk about you learning about investing and also trading, right? What kind of switch was that for you when you figured out like, oh my God, this is how all this stuff works. Like I can make money, you know, just by being in this space. Like, so I guess the question I'm asking is, did you know any of that coming up, or was that something that you discovered? And when you did discover it, what was the light bulb moment for you?
So I was first introduced to the markets by my uncle Derek, and my grandmother, paternal grandmother. She was also an investor. She started working at AT&T in like 1955, I believe. And she says that she went into her interview and the guy before her came out and said, hey, whatever you do, they got stocks. Ask them about their stock plan. So she goes into the interview, there's a lull, and it's kind of uncomfortable. And so she just blurts out, hey, what about the stock program you got and whatnot? And that kind of saved her in the interview. She ended up getting a job and started investing. And she would always try to encourage me to do it. But at the time, I thought it was, I believed in the market myths, what I call them. I believe that was for white folks. That was for rich people. That's, all the things.
All the stuff we hear in our community. Yeah, we hear that in our community.
Yeah. All the fear, that people pump into us, And so I didn't do it for years. And then eventually around 2015, I started learning. And then, but it wasn't until 2020, January 1st, 2020, that I really hunkered down and I took it serious to where I'm going to ride this thing to the wheel. I'm going to ride this or die. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, and I took it from a stance of, and my whole approach to the markets is this: I'm taking my reparations. I'm taking it. I've been empowered with knowledge now that I can go on the stock market now and use my beautiful brain, right, to take what's rightfully mine. That's my approach to the market.
I like that. I like that. Using the stock market to take your reparations.
Yeah. Hey man, because check this out, right? People could say what they want about money, right? They could say money can't buy love and all these other things, and that sounds real cute, right? But here's what I do know: money can't buy poverty, right? And most of the problems that are affecting our people is due to poverty. You did a video not too long ago talking about how traumatic it is to be poverty brings trauma. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. It really does. Yeah.
Yo, that's real. I remember walking up to my mentor, man, and I went to complaining about something. He said, man, you all right, you just need a little money. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I
do. Yeah, man. Listen, it's funny now, and that's why I like building with brothers from all across the country, because like even if you're in Chicago and we're in Philadelphia, these stories are very similar in terms of the stuff that you're told about the market, in terms of our experiences. And it's funny when you sit back as a grown man and you think about some of the beliefs and some of the things that you had growing up in the inner city, and how we all got trauma, right? We all got PTSD, and because some of the stuff that's normalized for us is not normal.
It's not normal.
Yeah, it's just not normal. But you realize that as you grow and mature, and you say, "Damn, like I thought this, or I moved this way." But that's why I like building with you brothers, because it's always a learning experience. Or you was getting ready to say something to the brother?
I know that sounds similar to what I said. All the problems we think are Our social problems are really, economic problems with social consequences. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is, right? And then when I say that, people are like, well, this ain't a social problem. I mean, this ain't an economic problem. This ain't an economic problem. I'm like, it all stems from economic, everything stems from the economics of it all, right? It all boiled down to who control the money and who control the resources, right? And if you don't control money or the means of production or the resources in your neighborhoods, you don't control anything. Your life is always going to be up to somebody else. You're going to be begging your whole life because you don't control anything.
Yeah.
You can own I tell black people, you can own every house in your neighborhood. If you don't own any of the businesses in your neighborhood, you don't own your neighborhood. And so that it doesn't, you get a say so by owning real estate, but really the money comes from the businesses in the neighborhood, right? And so if you don't control the businesses in your neighborhood, you don't control your neighborhood.
I think it goes deeper than that, though, because I think you got to control the politics in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, so, but what I'm saying is,
I think it's deeper than that, because even if you got the businesses, if you don't control the politics, listen.
My thing is that goes a long way into controlling the politics, because now you got the money to buy the politicians like everybody else do.
It's all connected.
Yeah, you got to be able to buy those politicians.
Business is warfare.
It definitely is.
And our people are not even taught that. We're not even fighting. We're not even in the game.
Break that down for the folks that like trying to understand it. Dig deeper in that. What do you mean when you say business is warfare? What do you mean by that?
I'm really just putting a tag on what you brothers was just saying. How if you don't control the resources in your community, you don't control your community. It's not yours really. You just listen. Eventually, if you don't control the business in your community, somebody's going to come in there and control them. And if you look in our communities, it's a whole lot of people that don't look like us that come into our community. They take money out of our community. They never bring anything to the community, So that's the warfare, and we're not even fighting it. You know what I mean? There's a war going on. Like, even just think about this, brothers. We're part of the 1%ers in this regard, that we've been endowed with a skill set or a knowledge that enables us to go to the money well every day.
Yeah.
That's that right there. Just think about that. Everybody doesn't have access to that. We're able to do something that's a little different, and that's how we can overcome and win some of these wars and this war of business, by being investors, by being smart with our money, by doing cooperative economics, by doing things together. That's how you become a community, by doing things together. And that's what I mean by it's warfare. It's so much going on in our communities, and we're not even fighting.
Yeah, but see,
a lot of us don't even know we at war, though. That's the thing. Go ahead, Corey.
So what I was saying is, when you was talking about those liberated zones, right? The one thing I would say about those liberated zones is that the first thing they do is they control all the businesses in that neighborhood. Like, even if they don't control all the housing, anybody can live in those neighborhoods. They don't even care. But I tell you who can't, you can't do, like, you can't buy a business in that neighborhood. If you go into Chinatown in Philly, all of those businesses are owned by Asian people. They might not be all Chinese, but all of those businesses are owned by Asian people. And
right.
If you go, there's a big giant Vietnamese a contingent here in Philadelphia. And if you go into those neighborhoods, they got a supermarket, a church, they got dentists, and they got their own doctors. Like, they'll buy a building, and then they'll get one of those doctors that they sent to one of these fancy colleges, and they'll bring them back, and that'll be their doctor. And they'll pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be their doctor. And we don't do any of that.
Well, listen, at the dawn of the 20th century, we had over 50 banks. Last I checked, it was like 13, and it was declining, and it has declined. It's probably like 8 right now, but don't quote me on that. It's significantly less. We have one Black-owned hospital in America, Howard University's hospital. You know what I mean? Like, here in Chicago a few years ago, it was 50% unemployment rate for Black men in Chicago. Like, how do we really expect for our communities to thrive if we're doing nothing to invest into to pour into the community? We're not pouring into the community.
Like what kind of jobs? Like my thing is this, right? Especially with men. Like when you don't have something for them to do, they're going to create something to do. Like for the very most part, like we're not going to be hungry forever. Somebody going to feed us. Now, whether we got to take that food or whether that food, you know what I mean, wherever that food come from, and this is why you see the crime and the poverty that you do. This is why you see all these young boys going to hustling out here, or they'll take the gat and put it to your back. They'll rob you for $200 because they don't have $200 to them is a lot of money because they never had anything.
They're in survival mode.
Yeah, they are. I think that, and again, it's something that I've said on multiple episodes. I've come around. I used to think that everything was purely economic. And now I believe that it's part mental health and part economics. I don't know whether it's 50-50, 70-30, 60-40. I don't know what the split is because in my work and talking to some of these young brothers, man, they be hurting. They don't even want to do it. They've been through things that, I don't even want to speak on, you know what I mean? That's not really talked about in our community. So I think that's part of it. The economics is another part of it. But then there's another thing we got to talk about too is we're taught to run from our own, right? So our best and brightest will go to schools. And when they come back, the first thing they want to do is get away from the rest of us, right? That's a mentality, right? Because, but something else that, and you talk about this, Ronnie, I've heard Corey talk about it as well. We have to be able to offer them opportunities. If they come from college and they got a finance degree or they have a law degree, like where are they really going to come to work? They have to kind of leave. You know what I mean? So it's like
be able to support themselves because, and this is another thing about our folks, and I love our folks more than I love anything in the world. But what we don't support each other in a way economically that makes sense, right? If I'm a doctor and I come back and I work in the inner city, I'm going to be making $40,000 or $50,000 as a doctor, and I got $350,000 in student loans, right? One of the things when me and Jim started By the Hood, two of the young boys that I mentored, they went to schools and they got finance degrees, right? Okay. And one of the things I told them when I was mentoring them, I said, you got to come back, right? And so they came back and they tried to find jobs and they were getting offered $45,000 and $60,000 a year for finance with finance degrees. And one of them had a finance law degree. And I was like, you got to go. Like, I can't keep you here because that doesn't, you can't make $60,000 a year with a finance law degree. You know what I mean? Like you can't do, I'm not even going to allow you to do that because that doesn't make any sense. I had to send him to Chicago because there was nothing here where he could have got paid. And there's nothing, I couldn't offer him anything that would be remotely close to being able to, with that degree.
So here's the thing. That's a failure on our part. And again,
exactly.
But a lot of times we like to wag the finger, but we've kind of dropped the ball a little bit because we build that infrastructure.
We gonna call brother a sellout, right?
Yeah.
He went to make $160K instead of taking the 60, right? We gonna call him a sellout, but we're not gonna even look at ourselves in the mirror and say we sold him out.
Yeah, he didn't have nowhere to go. Listen, he did exactly what I asked him to do.
Yeah,
he went and got the degree and came back.
He did what people in survival mode do.
Yeah,
and the way this country, we live in a capitalistic society. Everybody's in survival mode. Whether I don't care how much money you got, it's engineered that way for us to keep going and going and going and keep pumping and pumping into the economy and things like that. We have to be very careful how we, wag our fingers at people. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that brother had good intentions and everything, but hey, man, I do have to put bread on the table.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's 23 years old. He's 23 years old with every opportunity in the world in front of him. He went and got a 4-point GPA at a premium school and said, "All right, you know what I mean? We talked about this. I'm ready. Where you want me to go?" And I'm looking around.
So here's the other part of that. So that's why, like, I don't, you know, and again, this is all through maturity. You recognize things. When people run away, my thing is not just that you leave, but what are you bringing back, right? If you're going to go out into the world with other cultures and do that, but what are you bringing back, right? So, I mean, and a great example is what's going on right now. We don't have to get into that, but one of the things that has brought up is that book, The $40 Million Slave, right? And William Roden is the author of that book. But one of the things he talks about in there is when you look at the contracts that these athletes have made, right? It allows them to live amazing lives. But what infrastructure has been brought back to the community? If you don't have any hospital,
I'll talk a little bit about that, right?
All right. Now, again, the point is, where is that capital traveling to? And the point that he makes in the book is, like, when you look at the capital,
it goes to affluent neighborhoods that are not Black. But
go ahead. What did you want to say?
What I will say about that is that money flows backwards in Black when you got those Black athletes, right? Instead of the money flowing forward into new things, he or she is taking care of all the people that took care of them on the way to where they got. I
understand that, and I saw that.
That's a giant burden. That's a giant burden that a lot of other cultures don't have to deal with because
But again, right? So I get that, right? And that is part of it. And I saw that on the episode. I forgot what podcast it was, where the guy talked about that.
That about was how Brandon Marshall's podcast.
Yeah, shout to Brandon Marshall's podcast. So I did see that. But I think there's another part of it too, right? Because even if money flows, we've seen, listen, you've seen the documentary, you've seen the statistics on Broke.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You see,
that documentary is nuts.
In the middle of all that money flowing back, there's also a lot of money flowing into other businesses that aren't our businesses, and there's no infrastructure being built. And by the way, I'm not putting this just on, celebrities. I'm putting that on an everyday working person. I don't care if you work for the sanitation department. Unless we all at some point decide to work as a unit, it's not going to work. And it can't be on the celebrities. So I don't even wag my finger at celebrities because I don't think they're the solution personally.
At all.
I think the number one problem, no matter how you slice it in Black America, is I got mine, you get yours. You know, and I did
rugged individualism.
In Chicago, we have, I don't think you all have them in Philly because y'all houses kind of all together anyway.
Yeah.
But we have these gates, right? I hate these gates, bro. Those metal gates and whatnot. Everybody has those gates. And the reason why I hate those gates, I understand the reason why people put them in there, because during the 80s and the 90s, during the crack era, it was when our communities went crazy. I understand the reasoning behind it. But those gates signify it's all about just me and mine behind behind this gate. You know, and I don't give a damn about everybody else outside of the gate. You don't even know your neighbors nowadays, you know? Yeah. So we've gotten out of that working together thing. That's why I appreciate the work that you all do. And that's why I strive every day to try to do. I try to build with people what we agree on. See, we could agree on 90% of the things, right? But we're gonna fall out about the 10%.
Oh man, you listen. Now you speaking gospel, man. And
we disagree on this one thing, man.
And now we can't. Now we don't bang it all.
Yeah, but we agree on some major stuff, right? You know what I mean? But damn, because I don't think LeBron is the GOAT, we gotta fall out. Come on, man. We have a case of extreme pettiness as a people at times, you know.
And I think that's an amazing point, because we have to understand that, like, disagreement is okay, right? And me and Corey talk about this often. Like, our thing is, as long as someone's heart is in the right place, even if we have different ways of getting there, it's about the mission and it's about like what the end result is. Like, you may say, look, we want to go left. He may say we want to go right. But as long as you guys are trying to get to the same place and you guys got the same goals.
I don't got to go left with them. All I got to do is if I see that they're getting to the place where I gotta go, all I gotta do is not get in their way. Like I don't even have to support
How
them.
about that?
I don't even have to support what they do. I just gotta not get in their way so they can get where they're going. You know what I mean? Like people think you gotta support everything. Half the time, you don't even gotta support it. You just gotta get out of people's way so they can get where they're going.
Listen, you ain't never lie. That's why sometimes, like, I just won't say anything. If it's a specific topic, like, I won't even say nothing at all. Because sometimes it's better just to be quiet. And I think that's another thing. We got to learn that sometimes you don't got to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah, I get into. I got caught in a distraction tornado over the last couple of weeks.
It's all good though. Sometimes you gotta get things off your chest though. But Ronnie, we done this. I like this conversation because every time we build is like this. But I want to get back to your story because this is really about you. Okay. And you know, we got sidetracked because we were talking about the work that you do at Rise Up and the work that you're actually doing in the community. And you talked about learning to invest, now learning to trade, becoming good at trading, starting in 2020. Like and you know, we've been in rooms and things, and I've seen you trading. You do your thing. Tell us about the future, because I know one of the things you talked about in the future is trying to marry the two together, trying to marry that community activism with the trading. Like, what does that look like?
What does that look like? Well, right now, as it stands, I've been, for the last few years, I've been teaching people about the markets and things like that. Created a business doing that. Also with trading and things, teaching people how to trade and stuff. Ultimately, it's about basically what By the Hood is about. That's what Rise Up Chicago was predicated on, the thought of us rising up as a community, being our own Section 8. I don't believe that we need white people for anything. I think we need for them to leave us the hell alone and let us be our great genius selves and be self-determined and let us do for ourselves. So that's my vision, to help as many people, empower them with the knowledge of the stock market, and then be able to turn that into us investing in the community. Because what does it look like because the facts of the matter is 75%, 77% of our households are ran by women. What does it look like if we, as investors, are building up our own community and buying a lot of these vacant properties in our communities, fixing them up, and you know, selling those homes to single parents, because now they're invested in the community, and now their children are invested in the community. If they're invested in the community and the children are invested in the community, then our streets will be a little cleaner. Then you'll be more cognizant of the things that's going on in your surroundings, and you say, no, I'm not having that because I pay taxes for this property. You know, it's a whole different mindset. So ultimately, that's the goal. It's going to take me more time than I would have liked it to, but Rome wasn't built in one day. So
absolutely.
That's the vision, for us to build those liberated zones that I talked to, where we control our own businesses, where we control our own housing, where we control our own schools, where we control our own banks, where we do for ourselves. That's the ultimate vision that I have for Rise Up Nation.
Let me ask you a question, right? Along this journey, and you told us about your story growing up north side of Chicago. You talked about the Navy, getting into the streets, and then, you know, getting yourself together and building what you're building now. What would you say has been the biggest hurdle or something that you had to overcome to get you to where you are today from where you started?
Me.
All right, explain that one.
I've been the biggest obstacle to everything that I've ever aspired to do. Getting over myself and being able to encourage myself to go when I don't feel like going. I just have a passion, bro. It's a fire that burns in me for my people, for my family, for myself. I just want us to win, man. And so it's that wanting to win and want to see us do well. And we're better than this, man. We're better than how we're living. You know, it's so much more out here to the world. By me being able to go and travel the world as a young man, I'm glad that I had that experience because I wasn't a local yokel. You know, my mind is bigger than just Chicago or Illinois. You know, my mind is international. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a great answer. And I gotta ask you this question, right? You know, and I'm sure you can answer this too. As someone that does similar work that we do in terms of like, you know, finance and also community work, um, how do you stay motivated when at times, like I'll be very transparent with you guys. Like, so sometimes it gets tough, right? It gets tough, and I've expressed this to Corey. Like, with some days I just feel like beat up. Um, how do you stay? How do you keep the fight alive? Like, how do you not just get frustrated and just like say, you know what? Because you have a skill set, like you mentioned earlier, where you can take care of yourself and you can build wealth yourself, but your focus is the people. How do you deal with those days where it's just like, you know, something could happen in the community or something that just really, you know, brings you down? How do you stay?
And I know this is gonna sound cliche-ish, but it's true. I draw from the ancestors, meaning I analyze their lives. I do not deify them, right? I learn from their mistakes. I draw from their strength. I wonder, how did Khalid Abdul Muhammad feel when he spoke out and nobody said, you know, we should defend him, our people, no matter what they say. He was ostracized for it. But now it's convenient. So I look at, I'll use that for example and say, where did he draw strength from? I try to literally put myself in those shoes or whatever I'm dealing with. I'm frustrated. What made Malcolm keep going? How did Garvey feel when he was stabbed in the back so many times and whatnot? Um, I guess I try to use history to try to help me along my journey, and I try to draw strength from. See, I don't have to go through what you went through, bro. But if I know you went through an ordeal, a tough ordeal, and you was able to persevere, I could kind of latch on to you and your strength and what you went through and whatnot to say, man, you're gonna be all right. You'll be able to keep on going no matter what, because man, that brother just showed you it could be done.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
our people so dope, man. You know what I mean?
That's
Our
true.
people
That's
so
true.
dope. You know what I mean? How could you not draw uh uh uh, uh you know, inspiration from Gabriel Prosser? How could you not draw, you know, our
Yeah,
people
yeah.
so dope. So when I feel like giving up, when I feel like, man, I can't go another further, man, I look at those guys, man, and say, man, I ain't doing enough. You know, I
I
got to
feel it.
keep going. You
I
know,
like that. How
I'm
about
out
you,
here
Corey?
bullshit, man.
How about you,
You know
Corey?
what I
What
mean?
about you?
How I draw I
Like, how do you
mean,
like? You know how some days, bro. Like, and I mean, you've talked about it.
yeah, man. You know what? I it's the circle we in. It's I draw energy from the folks that, you know what I mean, like being able to talk to you, being able to talk to, you know, people in our circle, in our community, Pastor Jay, you know what I mean, the women in our community, how they love us and support us, and they show us all the love that we, you know, because they see us out here doing the work. They protect us, man. They shield us from a bunch of the BS. Like, you know, they be putting us on. Like when the wolves is on us, they put us on to the, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just being in the right place, you know what I mean, around the
Yeah.
right people.
So
Because
your circle. So
yeah,
I like both of those answers because your answer is your circle and Ronnie's is like, you know, our history and our people. And I got a couple more questions before we get out of here, Ronnie. But one I have to ask you about, right? So I see the picture behind you, Marcus Messiah, right? I gotta ask you about that because I watched a clip of you. You were on a TV show, I believe, right? And you know they were asking you questions about the community, but I peeped you had a Marcus shirt on in,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
obviously he means something to you in his story. So I gotta ask the question, like, what is you know, the ancestor mean to you?
Garvey had the answers 100 years ago, right? And a lot of people may not even know this, but the FBI was created not for Bonnie and Clyde. Them, it was created really to ostracize Marcus Garvey. For me, he just symbolizes self-determination. He symbolizes do for yourself. There's so much encouragement and enlightenment that he's given to us as a people and whatnot to do for self and not be sitting around here looking down the barrel of our noses at each other, to not look at other people as if they were superior to us. He esteemed. They say he had over 6 million dues paying members back in the 20s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He inspired so many of others. Elijah Muhammad is a Garveyite.
Yeah.
And so many. Malcolm's father was president of Omaha, but a lot of people would just rather tell you that Elijah Muhammad taught him everything. Malcolm was born a Garveyite.
Yeah.
Garvey was. To me, he's a symbol. He's somebody that we should that did noble work on behalf of his people. He had a great love for us. He gave us the blueprint, the economic blueprint, and things like that. And that's why I love him, and that's why I always refer to him. I look at his book, Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. That's my Bible. Period. That's another source of inspiration.
Yeah. I heard you. And I got one more question, and I guess you already named the book. I was going to ask you, what is your favorite book or a book that's inspired you along your journey? You already named that one, so you can't give me that one. Give me another book that's one of your favorites that helps you and has inspired you along your journey.
This is gonna sound crazy, but Disciplines of a Godly Man. Right, okay. It's a book called Discipline. It's a Christian book written by a white pastor and whatnot. But he got some good principles in there that you could take, and it's a book about discipline, right?
Okay.
So those are things that I'm a person that I like to think that I'm a disciplined man, and so that's a book that I really love because it keeps me sharp, it keeps me disciplined, it keeps me structured.
Got you. I just read it. I just finished reading a book on discipline. It's called Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday, and he ties a lot of history in and talks about how some of the things that we attribute to other parts of people's lives is really just their discipline. So you might want to, if that's like what you're into, you might want to check that out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm still piecemealing Yorugu, bro. Like this book. No,
all
listen,
right.
Man. This joint heavy, right?
Whoa, turn to the side. How big is that book? Oh, all right. It's one of them. All right, got you.
I'm piecemealing this joint, right? So I take my notes. I got a notebook dedicated to this book. Like, this is one of them books where I'm reading, and as I'm reading, I'm taking notes, right? Because she laid the game down quite flat. Her name is Marimba Ani. And it's about African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior.
Okay.
And so
Corey, when you finish that, we're gonna need you to do like a whole review on that, because
I'll definitely do that. I've been taking this book piece by, like this joint like an elephant that I gotta eat piece by piece. You know what I mean? You like, how do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece, right? Because this joint's so like it's her pen game. Not on the same level as Isabel Wilkerson, but it's definitely because Isabel Wilkerson this book would have been half this size. Yeah. But her pen game is still crazy though.
Gotcha. Let me just say this, man. This is why I love talking to you brothers. You brothers are brilliant, man. I love y'all minds, man. You always have some sound, impactful, empowering information, man. So that right there, you got me sitting up here mesmerized and whatnot.
Listen, man, thank you for the compliments, good brother, man. And listen, I just want to say thank you for your time overall, man. This has been a great talk. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing the vision of what you're trying to do in the future with your organization. And thank you for the work that you do, man. Just understand that you are appreciated, and you got brothers on the other side that love the work you do, and we like to support you any way we can. We got to come out there and chop it up with you, man, and do something in the community. Like, we got to definitely do that.
Yeah, man. I said it on y'all post before. Whenever y'all do, if y'all ever do y'all camp where people could come or whatever, I'm coming on my dime. I want to be there. Because listen, man, what you all are doing, man, is some tremendous work and whatnot, man. And I just love it. I love everything about it and everything like that, man. Working with the youth, man, we that's how you change the whole narrative, man.
Yeah.
You know, there's a scripture, I'm gonna end it right here. There's a scripture that says a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. You know what I mean? So by you all doing the work that you're doing and dealing with the youth, and that's why I try to focus on them as best as I can. We're changing the narrative, man. We're teaching young people that they are not who we are, not who they say we are.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, we're gonna build together, man. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll continue to support you as well, good brother.
All right.
Corey, you got any words before we get out of here, good brother?
Just, you know, it feels good to know that we're not alone in the fight, man.
Yeah.
It feels good. Like, so, because like I said, man, it's lonely sometimes, man. When you be out here and you be brawling, it get heavy. You know what I mean? Like, I got 4 kids, and I want the world to be a better place for when my kids walk around and then when they decide to have kids. And so it just it makes me feel better to know that other people out here doing the work.
Absolutely.
I don't want my grandchildren to say, bye-bye. When things was going, when the murder rate was going up in Chicago, what you was doing?
Yeah.
You know, I can't have that on my resume, man. You
right?
Know what I mean? I can't have that on my resume.
What did you do?
Yeah.
Right, so for our folks out there, I'm going to put Ronnie's social media contacts and everything within the description. Follow what he's got going on. Follow his organization. Support his work any way you can. If you're in the Midwest, anywhere near, help the brother. Just do the work, because that's what we're about. It's just taking action and not just having conversations. We like to actually take action, and this brother is one that's taking action. So make sure you follow him. And again, we love and appreciate all of the support that we get from everybody. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this podcast. We're on all podcast platforms. If you're watching on Facebook, share it there. But just support the brother. And we love you guys. But as we always say, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. Game elevates. We'll see you guys in our next episode. Peace.